arrested and you are not released and you are not charged to court, then you should get your lawyer to enforce your right. That's why we have the fundamental right action.
But from the way some of these things are turning out now, where, yes, they were arrested, it's not that, just as you also stated, anybody can be invited for questions.
Yes.
But there are rules and there are procedures for all of those to be done. And if those are flouted, then the law kicks in.
Exactly.
But this process of investigation, is it part of the investigation, or which one comes first? You're arrested first, and then, because I've heard some people say, some lawyers also say that this part should be perhaps coming towards the end, after they must have done investigations and they've got concrete evidence against you, and then you're brought forward, say, well, from what we've seen, this, and this, so your invitation might just be to cap up the entire thing because they got a concrete case against you. But if it comes first, how do you see that? Is that
I am not here to teach the police how to do their work. But let's also take into consideration when you talk about investigation. Let's assume the police is investigating me and they are doing their job and they are carrying out that investigation. At a particular point in time, I may be invited for interrogation, for questioning, to ascertain the information they have and ask me a few questions. So it is not as if the police can just go about investigate any Tom, Dick and Harry and conclude your investigation and then invite you and charge you to court. You who is being investigated may be called upon to come and answer a few questions or to even assist the police in their investigation. What is important is that the police has a constitutional duty to maintain law and order in the society. And in the course of maintaining that law and order, they have a duty to also prevent crime.
And the journalists who are
arrested, and the journalist
also have
has a right, has a constitutional duty, I said that at the beginning, to publish and educate and inform the public. It's a right that is guaranteed by our constitution, no doubt about that. But also remember, as the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is expected. So where there is a right, there is also a duty.
So at what point did the police, if any, flout the rights of these 4 journalists?
Take the question again.
Everyone has a right.
Yeah.
The police, the journalists.
Yes.
So we're trying to look at if there was any established case of rights violation of these 4 journalists by the police.
If the 4 journalists are detained beyond the number of hours that the Constitution says they should be detained, then they have a right. Everybody has a right to approach the court. If you infringe on my right, I can take you to court. If the police infringes on your right, you can take the police to court. That, however, does not rule out the fact that the police can do their job if they suspect that a crime has been committed.
Let's talk about the publication proper that led to all of this. Now, the allegations of a purported publication by the government, which they say they have access to, and finally published it. But the government came up to say, well, that wasn't from them. What should the leadership newspaper have done in a case where it has been established or it has been affirmed by the government that that wasn't actually from them? Because they refuse to back down, knowing full well or saying that truly they have the authentic release from the presidency.
Okay, for me, the leadership newspaper can do one or two things. One, the Freedom of Information Act gives them the authority to write officially to the federal government or the presidency or whichever department is in custody of that official document. They have a right to request for it. That's one part. If they don't want to do that, and then the police says what you published is a forged document, and then police charges them to court for forgery, then they can put up a defense and be able to establish that they published a true information. or a true document. Because when you take somebody to court, I mean, talking about the police or the Attorney General or any authority that has the constitutional duty to take somebody to court, what he's trying to do is to get the person convicted for an alleged crime. Now, the person that is charged to court also has a duty to defend himself and prove that he is innocent. So, whatever you have that will enable you establish your innocence, you're supposed to put it before the court of law.
Do the police also have a right to ask for the source of a story?
That may be part of their own investigation. And if the journalist says, oh, I cannot disclose the source of my information, I mean, in journalistic parlance, you hear our reliable sources. You have a right to say you will not disclose your information. But then, if you don't disclose and you are taken to court, and a prima facie case is established against you and the court finds you guilty, then you bear the consequences all alone. But let's even assume, let's look at the flip side of the coin. If you have a document that is forged, I'm not saying that what they published is false, don't get me wrong. But let's assume that somebody has a forged document and he got it from a particular source and he goes ahead to publish it. And the police, in the course of their investigation, trying to establish a case of forgery, now says, tell us who gave you this document. And you say, no, I cannot disclose that because you believe that by the ethics of your profession, you have a duty to protect the source of your information, because sometimes if you disclose, next time around, you may not get anything from that particular source. So, what do you think will happen? You will sink or swim all alone because you have decided on your own not to disclose. But if you disclose,
Is it deciding on your own or following what the ethics of your profession
don't
demand?
forget that ethics of the profession may also not be the law. Every profession has its own professional ethics. The law is also there to guide the ethics. So if you are charged to court and you are asked to show...
But in this case, they were not charged to court.
No, they've not been charged to court.
But this circumstance, yes.
Yeah, they've not been charged to court. And if they say they cannot disclose the source of their information, and if the police believes that they have committed a crime, then the police should charge them to court.
Yeah,
if the police does not have any evidence against such criminality, then they cannot do anything about it.
Do you think that a law should be made to protect sources? Will it be close to a whistleblowing law? Say, for instance, I mean, that same law that you say can be used against the journalist for refusing to disclose a source if information turns out to be false, also has the greater good of, protecting whistleblowers. Do we have a law on whistleblowing right now?
I don't think so. Because if you say let's make a law that protects the source of information,
yeah.
What if the information you have or the information you peddle is not the truth?
That's hypothetical. Then take them to court. There are legal precedents against that. Are you not aware of any legal precedents against this matter?
No. What I'm saying is, before you can be taken to court, and I said that before, nobody, no policeman, no authority that is charged with prosecution wakes up in the morning, says, look, we have committed an offense, I'm taking you to court. Don't forget that even those who are doing your own assessment or performance appraiser will also assess you based on actions.
I've heard lots of legal precedents about this case.
Which case now?
Either the federal government against the state or state against this kind of scenario where the journalist is asked for the source and they say, no, I can't disclose it, and the matter ends up in court.
No.
It's happened before in this country.
Yeah, I may not readily give you the citation, but what I'm saying in earnest is this, that if a journalist says he cannot disclose his source of information. If you ask me a